11 o'clock. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Lubbock Electric Utility Board. I'll call the roll. Mr. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Odom. Ms. Gambles.
Here.
Mr. Fields.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Harbaugh.
Here.
Mr. Ramirez.
Here.
Great. We have a quorum. Do we have anybody that wanted to talk to us today, Jenny? No, nobody wanted to. And welcome to Council Member Massengale, Joy, and Wilson. We're all glad you're here. Did I miss anybody? Oh, the mayor, Lord of mercy. Big mistake. Didn't mean to do that, sir. And let the minutes reflect that Mr. Odom is present also. So we have a full contingent of our board members. So no one wants to talk to us today. So we will be going into executive session. We'll recess an executive session in accordance with 1 VTCA Government Code 551.086 on competitive matters of LP&L and 2 VTCA Government Code 551.071 seeking advice of and consultation with LPL's attorneys on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Government Code and seeking advice of its attorneys about pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers. Mr. Mayor, do you have a quorum?
We do, thank you. At this time, I will also call City Council into session. We will move to hold an executive session today for the purpose of consulting with city staff regarding the following: competitive matters of the public power utilities under Section 551.086 of the Texas Government Code, and pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers, and hold consultation with attorney under Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code.
Okay, and are we going to the second floor? Is that correct? Okay, we will see you, as we say in West Texas, directly. The executive session has been completed, and I'll call the regular board of the Electric Utility Board back to order at 11:39. And we will proceed to item number 5 on the agenda. The minutes from the regular utility board on March 20th and the April 10th special meeting minutes. Or is there a motion to approve those minutes? So moved. It's been moved and seconded to approve those minutes. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. Number 6, is that you, Mr. Ivy?
That would be me. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning still, I guess. I'm not used to saying that. Had a pretty quick executive session, didn't we? This morning we had a Lineman Appreciation Day function out at the Hill. Still don't know why they call it the Hill, but that's what they call it. It's a really neat event. All the linemen, our substation folks, engineers, and different folks come in and just celebrate our linemen. The linemen are actually emblematic of our industry, if you think about that. Nobody ever thinks about me when they think about the electric industry. They think about them, and rightly so, because they're essentially our heroes for keeping the lights on and making sure that we can deliver comfort and security to the customers that we serve. So we certainly appreciate everything that they do. At that meeting, which the board chair attended, thank you for that, Madam Chair. They have a process where they will nominate one of their own to a Hall of Fame that they've got. And so it's somebody that has served with distinction for a long period of time, typically, and someone that everybody tends to look up to. In this case, the gentleman's name was Jimmy Engel. He retired after about 41 years with us back in 2017, I think. So they couldn't say enough good things about him, so it sounds like that was really, really well-deserved. And then we had an apprentice lineman that has been named to, he won the rodeo competition locally for the apprenticeship group, and he's going to be on his way to Seguin to go participate in a statewide contest. So it's my understanding he had a perfect score. Is that right? He had a perfect score, which is almost unheard of. So congratulations to Mitchell Kingston. I'm going to fumble through some papers here. I wanted to try to find the timeline if I can, because it's important that we point out that we're still making a lot of progress. This is probably not going to happen. We're still making a lot of progress because remember, this is the year where things happen. All the years and years that have gone into getting us up to this point culminates in, I'm sorry, I can't find the page number, but it culminates in all these actions being taken place now. And so our team is working very diligently. The folks at the business office are really making great things happen with the end-to-end testing that they're doing with the REPs. We're still hopeful that by mid-May, maybe the end of May, we can start the sign-up process for the REPs and start bringing them on board. And I think Matt will talk about that a little bit more. We want to post the names of the people that are able to do business in Lubbock simply because they've done flight testing and then they've also signed the agreement with us. And if you haven't done both of those, you're not eligible as far as I know. There's going to be brokers that work kind of in between. We're going to try to get as many of the names that we know about on the website as we can so people will know where to go to make sure they're seeing legitimate businesses that they should be talking to. So that's one of the things we've got to keep in mind. There's always the opportunity for scams and scammers. And so that's just a constant part of our life, whether we like it or not. So if we can do whatever we can to try to make sure we can minimize that stuff, I think that would help everybody. So beyond that, unless you have any questions, we've got staff that can answer performance
Just
questions.
one question, just for education, what would a scammer try and do? Say there's somebody that they're not because
Yeah.
all electric bills are paid generally.
Yeah, I mean,
By
they can
invoice.
call you and say, if you don't pick me, you're going to lose out. They can go to your door and say, give me a $150 deposit and I'll get you signed up. There's a myriad of different things they can do to try to get your money. But at the end of the day, if nobody knows anything else about what's going on, just know that you don't have to do anything. And you will land in a good place with the three safety net providers that we've got. So if you can just help propagate that story to people that are confused and concerned, just reassure them all you have to do is nothing, and you'll be just fine. Okay? Any other questions or concerns? We'll step right into it. I think you get the privilege of hearing from Casey.
I have a question. I'm looking at the customer education outreach plan timeline. Are we still on schedule for the downloadable shopping guide and those things?
Matt, are you going to talk about that in a minute? Can we defer to when Matt comes up? Thank you, sir, because he's going to hit on that topic too. Him and Luke got a good update for us today. All right, thank you.
Hello, how are y'all today? Okay, we're going to be going through our February financials. So I want to start by talking about our increase in cash from last month. It's increased about $2.7 million. If you look at our cash flows, that'll show the reason for the increase. In our operating cash, we have a positive cash flow of $12.1 million. That's going to be due to an increase in revenues, as well as if you look at our AR on the balance sheet, you can see that we have received some payments on outstanding AR, as well as we have decreased our under-collected position by $4.1 million. If you look into our cash flows for our financing activities, you can see it's a negative cash flow of $13.9 million. $3.2 million of that is going to be for payments on bonds, and then the remainder is for CIP spending. We'll be reimbursed $8.8 million on CIP spending on bonds next month for expenses for this month. And then in our cash flows from investing activities, you see a positive cash flow of $4.6 million. That's going to be from refunds on CIP spending on bonds from January, as well as interest income. Going back to the balance sheet, you can see there is a slight increase in our current liabilities. That's going to be due to an increase in our payables, and that's also going to be offset by the payment we did make on bonds. we see an increase in our net position of 1.2 million. That puts us at an increase of 6.6 million for the year. Moving on to our ratios, we can see that there's an increase in our days cash from 102 days to 105 days. That's going to be due to our increased cash position, as well as we did experience lower expenses in February than we had in January. We can see in our operating ratio, we have a slight increase from 8.48 to 8.5. We can tell from that our revenues and our expenses are staying pretty consistent month over month right now. There's no drop or increase one way or another. And then in our current ratio, we did have a slight decrease from 2.08 to 2.02, and that's going to be due to our decrease that we had in liabilities versus the small increase, decrease we had in assets versus the small increase we had in our liabilities. Moving on to our income statement versus budget, we should be about 42% of our budget by this time. We can see in our charges for services and our purchase power that we're coming in slightly under at 39% of budget. Our ERCOT and ERCOT hold harmless payment and T-cost revenue are coming about right in at budget, and our departmental expenses are under budget at 35%. That is causing our operating income so far to be at 49% of budget, so we're over budget on our operating income. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Any questions of Casey? Again, thank you so very much.
Thank y'all.
Afternoon, board members. So agenda item is a power cost recovery factor, also known as the PCRF. Of course, this is the rate that we set for the winter and summer months again. But, you know, we made a change this month. We usually, the summer months are usually effective from June through September. And this month we've decided to affect those rates in May, which requires your approval. The director has the jurisdiction to change it for the winter and summer months. But being that we're going to bring them effective May 1st, this is going to change it. So it will need board approval to adopt this rate. First of all, I want to start with the PCRF rate history. Fortunately, we're able to reduce the PCRF rate from 12.2 cents to 0.99 cents. And the reason for this is natural gas. As you can see on the chart to the left, I have two different natural gas charts. So we have the blue one and the red one. And so the blue one is the rates that were projected last summer, and then the new rates are in red. So you can see gas has come off quite a bit, so that's allowed us to reduce the rates. Our PCRF, we're currently positioned at $2.1 million. And you can remember when we started the winter season, we were $21.1 million under collected. So we've collected that over 6 months. So we're now in a positive position of $2.1 million. And we expect to end the winter season at $7.3 million. As you can see here, even with the lower of the rates, we're going to be stable in the summertime. And the reason for this is because we've hedged in the summer, so we have fixed costs. We were able to get good prices with natural gas coming off. So we have our fixed costs set out for the summertime, which is able to allow us to stabilize the rates for the summer. So you can see we're getting the winter position again at $7.3 million in net position. And we expect to end at 9/30 at 6.5. So we're going to undercollect slightly at $830,000 for the summer months. Again, it's important to note, you know, we're really locked in with our rates for the hedging. Our hedging strategy has worked out. We have hedged in about 85% of our load for the summer months, which only leaves about 15% of our load for exposure. And that's what we'll pick up in the real time of the day ahead market. So we're in a good position, and we fixed out the cost. You know, 85% of our load is about 420 to 430 megawatts. So we fixed out that cost, so we won't see a big fluctuation in this summer. Even if natural gas prices do go up, we're in a pretty good position where we've locked in some good rates. Again, so we're in the position at $6.5 million, you know, and we'll reevaluate this PCRF in the June or July timeframe if needed, and we'll update the board monthly on where we're at every month in our position. Again, your rate one residential customer, this is our largest our customer base, so we kind of want to give you an example of what the bills look like. So as you can see here, again, I mentioned our PCRF has gone down from 12.2 cents to 9.9 cents. So your total cost for your per cents kWh in the wintertime was about 16.4 cents. And it's moved to about 13.9 cents per kWh. The reason we show you this is the reason you'll see that the summer total bill is about $191 compared to $164 is strictly your consumption usage. Your usage in the wintertime averages about 1,000 kWh, and as the heat comes on, your ACs are on more, that it does increase your consumption in the summertime. So we wanted to put up there the 1377 kW, which is the average, so the customer can kind of understand or get a visual of what their bill may anticipate their bill will be for the summer months. This just lists out all our rate classes. As you can see, every rate class has dropped. We're happy to say that every rate class in the PCRF has dropped to under 10 cents for the majority of them. So this lists out all the rate classes. So you have your energy and your demand component. And of course, you can see that your rate 15 through rate 17 have a strictly demand component. And that's any customer that's over the 10 kW threshold. They pay a demand component on top of their energy. With that being said, is there any questions on the PCRF?
So you need a motion to decrease the PCRF rate from 12.2 to 9.9 cents?
Yes, ma'am. So the motion is to adopt this rates right here that are on this PowerPoint slide.
I'll make a motion to adopt those rates.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the rates as seen on your screen right now, which is basically that lowering from the 12.5 to the 9.9 cents.
Yes, ma'am, under 10 cents.
All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously, 9-0. Thank you, Joe.
Yes, ma'am.
Number 9. Who's doing 9? Oh, Luke, you are here. I saw you this morning.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see you all again. I'm going to give you an update on where we are with our cutover for the construction projects that have been going on for quite a few months now. So before I get started, I just want to mention there are a lot of people working on these projects. We've got internal engineers, project managers, construction crews, linemen, who we appreciated earlier today, substation maintenance crews. A lot of people working together to make sure we get these done. And because of all of that hard work, we are where we are today. So I'll just kind of talk through where we are on the schedule. This is the schedule for our 2 remaining substation projects. If you'll remember, we had 4 that were critical to the cutover. 2 of those are complete. These are the 2 that are still in construction, Vicksburg and McDonald. We're currently in the final phases of both of those. We're testing and commissioning. Vicksburg is scheduled to complete that piece of it on May 23rd, and then McDonald is scheduled to complete on May 9th. So right now, Vicksburg completion is the last piece of construction on our schedule before we can actually do the cutover. So that's looking pretty good. On the schedule, the red line is our June 1st deadline, and the green line is where we are today. So as far as our feeder projects, we do have several that are still under construction. They are going well, and it looks like the last feeder project is scheduled to be completed on May 5th at this point. There's a lot of things that we've had to work through, obstacles we've had to overcome to be able to get through these projects. We've had surprises happen, things happen throughout each and every one of these projects, but people have been able to come up with solutions and find workarounds for different things to make sure that we can get these projects completed. So it's looking good, and I'm hoping the next time that I'm in front of you, I'll be reporting that they're all complete. So it's looking good. This is our procurement slide that we've been tracking. You'll notice that there are a lot more 100% on this slide, which I'm happy about, and I'm hoping that you are as well. I did receive confirmation this morning that McDonald, that 99%, we're missing 1% there, which is one part, and we're actually planning to install that part tomorrow. So that one will be 100% tomorrow, and then by this time next month, like I said, we'll have the remaining pieces that we're missing for Vicksburg and have that complete as well. So, of course, there is still some money that's going to be rolling out of our accounts for as we get invoices and keep spending, paying the contractors as they complete the jobs. And then finally, as far as the budgets, we're looking good. We have assigned contingencies that will cover us if need be. We're not really foreseeing anything coming out of those at this point, but we still have about a month's worth of surprises that could happen. So we have that available if something does come up, and we're confident that we can work through that. But other than that, we're looking like we'll come in under budget on all of these. So that's the update that I have. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions of Luke? Luke, let me congratulate you and your team, the linemen, everyone. First of all, these charts are very, very helpful, and to be getting Vicksburg done by May 23rd is pretty remarkable. That thing is huge. I drive by it, and it's like a bunch of little ants all working fast on it. And congratulations to you and Felix on getting all the material. We worried about that, but y'all must have cajoled a lot of people and got a lot of things done. And then the budgeting, so you're hitting on all cylinders. So thank you and all of your folks for us, please.
Thank you. I will definitely communicate that. Appreciate it.
Mr. Rose, are you next hitter up?
We've been moving pretty quickly, so I'll slow this down here. But I wanted to give you all an update about where we are on our communications effort, but also take a quick second and show you a little bit of the presentation that we've been giving to the public. So right off the bat, you've seen this before. Dr. Fields, you mentioned this in terms of the communications outreach timeline. This remains our overall goal. This has not changed from what I've shown you previously. The first version of it shows you basically going out through October of 23 and when these things are going to take place. As you can see, the top 3 items will continuously happen all the way through. But other ones, it's kind of moving in and out. Paid media is a good example of that. We had a paid media campaign from June until the end of the year, and we took a quick break, and then we're going to place various different media outlets, place our information on there, really starting in May, June, running through the end of the project. And the purpose there is trying to catch those folks that we wouldn't ordinarily catch. One of the biggest benefits of purchasing media is that you get things such as web banners when people go to a kcbd.com or Everything Lubbock that just pop up there. They can click there. It takes them directly where they need to go. The whole effort here is try to get people to our website so they can learn more about this project. Just kind of a top-end summary of how we've been doing thus far. Earned media, we continue to increase the amount of folks that are getting that coverage. We've had a lot of good news stories, and they will increase as the weeks go on. We had a lot of stories up until the end of the year. There was a quick break, but now the news media is back asking for interviews, and so we're trying to utilize that as much as we possibly can. Owned media is areas that we control. Again, we're seeing a really good uptick in percentages of folks that are going to our website directly and those that are following us on social media. And then, as I say, paid media, we don't have any out in the field right now, but we will in the next 30 to 60 days. So we'll kind of gauge that. In terms of community engagement, I wanted to point out a couple of good events that took place. One of them, we got to participate in a roundtable for the Lubbock Realtors Lubbock Area Realtors Group. There was between 200 and 300 people that showed up for that. not necessarily a group that I'm always in front of. And so based off of that, I have about 6 to 10 invites to speak to smaller realtor groups over the next 2 months. And so we'll try to utilize that as much as we can. And then I'll show you here in a little bit the schedule for it, but the council member district meetings are kicking up, and those have been very beneficial. Councilmember Sheila Patterson Harris has had 2 of them now. The first one had about 100 people show up. The one last night increased to about 150 that showed up. And so we have one for basically all the other council members coming up in the next 3 weeks. So I covered this. I won't belabor it too long in terms of the news stories that we're getting. Again, we continue to get good coverage by media. I'm sure based off of this, I'll probably give interviews the next couple of days. Tomorrow, for example, I'm going to sit on Talking Points that runs on Sundays on KMAC. Again, just another area to try to get folks that wouldn't ordinarily see what we're doing. Own media, again, that's areas that we can control. If you look at that second box there, I would just highlight that, you know, we've had several power outages of late, and so it's natural that we've had that amount of page views, but just naturally the folks that are going to the customer education and the retail competition page continue to grow, and so that's what we're trying to achieve. So this goes to Dr. Fields, this goes to your question of content on the website. I told y'all at the last meeting that by this meeting we would have more materials up there. And so starting at the first of this month, it's kind of small at the bottom on the left-hand side of the screen, but we now have downloadable on our website the competition handout that we're passing out at all the events, which is just a one-pager that talks about this project, and then on the back side has a step-by-step instruction of how they use the powertochoose.org. So they can download that on our website, English and Spanish, but we're also passing them out at events. And we also have the first version of our retail shopping guide up. The vast majority of this information is taken straight off of the PUC website. And our goal now over the next 30 to 60 days is to take more personalized information about this project and add it to this. For example, if you look in here, there's a section for registered retail electric providers. That's currently blank because we don't have any that are officially registered doing business here in Lubbock, as Joel had mentioned. But all of those that will be here operating when these markets open, and certainly during the shopping window, are going through testing with us right now. So pretty quickly when that gets completed, we will have all of their names, and we'll put all of the retailers' names on our website with their number and contact information, not just so that folks can start looking at their products and reach out to them when the time comes, but also, as I've seen in a lot of these events that we've had, people are already starting to knock on people's doors. And I want to be able to say to the public, hey, if somebody knocks on your door, they cold call you, you can go to our website and you can see if the company they're representing is officially allowed to do business here in Lubbock. And if not, you need to ignore that individual, let us know that somebody's operating kind of outside the bounds. To this point, we're already having some issues with folks going door-to-door knocking that don't have a peddler's permit with the city. And so as we receive those reports coming in, we're taking those to the appropriate areas so that those folks don't continue to do this. One of the things that concerns me a lot is that people that are going door to door doing this will typically go and say, hey, I'm with company X, Y, and Z. As you know, there's going to be competition here in Lubbock, so we want to be your provider. We can do that right now. Let me see a copy of your bill. And that's what we're trying to get out there to folks is don't do that. You're not required to do that. There's going to be a mechanism where people that are allowed to do business here can access that information, and it's not going to be knocking on your door asking for a paper copy of your bill with all your information in it. So we will probably have another section added to the website before next month that is kind of a consumer protections section, where this information is in other areas, but you can go specifically to this one area and read about things that can keep you safe from scammers. So all of that's loaded up on the website. The shopping guide, it'll get more comprehensive as we get that information, as we lock in the official beginning and ending of the shopping window, those types of things. Once all of that gets compiled and we get it to a point where we feel comfortable that this is all the personalized information for us that's needed in this booklet, then I will, instead of printing these out and stapling them, I'll go through the print shop here more than likely, print out a ton of copies of them, and distribute them across the city to libraries, as we talked about, to community centers, various different areas other than just the community service or the customer service center here across the street. So that I can tell folks, hey, if you or somebody you know does not have a computer or does not have the wherewithal to do this, you can go to your local library and you can pick up an informational packet and you can get on the computer and do everything you need to do right there. Another key component of this will be shopping fairs. That's on that kind of long list of things that we're going to be doing. And again, the goal there is that once we get to the shopping window, to have a shopping fair, invite everybody to it, have it on multiple occasions during that shopping window so that the reps can come out, set up booth space, and I can tell the public, this is your opportunity to go meet these folks, get more information, and sign up with them right then and there. And then communicate to the reps authorized to do business here that this is your opportunity to win over customers. So you need to attend these shopping fairs, and you need to bring information and everything that you need in order to make this person your new customer in the proper channels. One thing that we've added to the website that I'll point out, it's on the front page of the competition page, but it's also on the information for customers section, is upcoming community events. Each one of these district meetings that we're going to be having is listed on there with the date so that people can plan accordingly. You don't have to live in the district to go to any one of these meetings. You go to all of them if you want to. But it's a way for folks to check in and say, okay, here's where I can go get information. So we just had, the community event last night. But if you look at districts 3 and 6, that'll be on May 1st, Monday, May 1st. District 1 will be Monday, May 8th. Districts 4 and 5 will be Monday, May 15th. So we're going to have busy Mondays in the month of May going through all of these district meetings. But again, this is a really good opportunity to get in front of large groups of people. And I think thus far it's been a really big benefit doing this. Social media posts will continue to go out, will increase intensity. One thing that we do with the social media posts that I'll highlight is that we really do utilize putting money behind those posts and boosting them so that they don't just show up in folks' feeds that follow us, but they show up in everybody here in Lubbock's feed, and they're promoted content so they run consistently. So one of these promoted posts will continue to cycle through for about 2 weeks and get constant coverage. And so that's why you see that we had 2 in the month of March. However, they got the most impressions of any of our social media posts because we continue to push them out there more aggressively. This is in your board book. I'll continue to fill this out. Just a chart showing kind of what our expectations are for page views and for media stories. We continue to outpace that, but it'll be really interesting to see June, July, August, September, what the number of folks are that go to our website, because I'm going to continue to tell people, go to lpnl.com first. We've got all the links to all the places you need to go there. So instead of Googling, just go right there and get to where you need to go. We have the 2 videos that are up. We're in the process of making 2 more of these videos. First one's very general about competition. Second one looks at our future. These 3rd and 4th ones will drill further into what this transition looks like, what we look like as a utility, what this rate looks like, where you expect to see your next bill after this migration in October. But we expect to make at least 2 more of these, if not a 3rd one. So we've got, about 4 to 5 of these out there. And I think that's a good thing to have cycling around because it really does allow people to view this material in an easily digestible manner, and it's in English and Spanish, these videos, so that hopefully everybody can enjoy them. Really quickly, I wanted to walk you through this. This is a short version of what we've been showing the public. These are the slides. So it's what is retail competition, as we've talked about. What will happen to LP&L, talks about us being a delivery system, talks about us being on call during outages, owning and maintaining the poles and wires, connecting and disconnecting service. What we will not do is buy and sell electricity, be an option once we make this transition. We won't send bills directly to customers. You'll get that bill from your rep you choose. And as always, it's a question that we get first, middle, and last of every single one of these events. Well, then who's going to give me my water? So stressing that LP&L is just electricity and that your City of Lubbock utilities bill that has water, wastewater, stormwater, solid waste will continue to come to your house as it's been, and you will pay that bill and do that customer service as you've been doing. But that is a big concern of folks. This is a graph we show people that really, I think, illustrates what we're doing here. That light blue box is currently, our base rate that covers all our operations, including our long-term debt. The dark blue is purchasing power, which is about 70% of what we do. Post-transition, we continue to be the TDU, we continue to be the delivery system, but that orange piece is now what you're going to go do. You're going to go decide where you want to get your power from, and once you do, we'll deliver it to your home. But this is something we're going to continue to stress, because one of the big questions or concerns that people have both in person and on social media is, I don't understand why LP&L is still here. I don't understand why we have to pay them and our new provider. So a big part of this education process is explaining how electricity gets delivered to your home, and explaining why this is the normal course of events if you were to live in San Angelo, Midland, or anywhere else. When and how do I shop? We've been over this a lot, but we talked to them about that. And then we walk them through the Power to Choose website, where we talk about it's really, kind of a several-step process, but it's easy as entering your zip code, narrowing your results. There's what you get populated. You can then go through and filter it out and select 5-star companies or all green products, and then your cost will reflect that. And when I can, I try to walk through a live demonstration of that, where I say, here's somebody that just wants a bare bones, 8-cent deal. But somebody wants 5-star, maybe that plan's 9.5 cents now. Maybe that person wants 100% green, that plan's now 11.5 or 12 cents. So it drives home to folks that they really do control what their cost is, depending on how specific they want to get with this plan. But as I tell everybody, you can make this as easy or as complex as you want to. You can take 2 seconds, click, 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 and sign up, and you're done, if all you care about is getting the lowest cost. But if you really want to dive in, you can spend some time and really make it your own. But I stress to everybody that they need to look at the electricity facts label, because this answers a lot of the questions I get from folks, which is, how much is my deposit going to be? If I get cut off, what am I going to pay? What are all of their different customer service features? There may be some of these low-end cost providers that if you want to call customer service, they charge you $50 every time you do so. You need to know that. And so every provider is required to put this fax label up there. It looks the same for all of them with the same information, but it's just letting folks know that you have rights in this new market, and make sure you know what those rights are. And make sure you know what it would cost you if you break that contract, if you don't like that provider. Is it something you can manage, or is it $1,000 and therefore unwieldy? Because I've had that question a lot. Will these folks force us to stay with them? They won't, but they may have punitive things that they put into those fees that effectively do that. And so just trying to make sure people know what their rights are. And then, as always, I tell them to follow us on social media, and we're seeing a good uptick of folks doing that. And so my hope is that, selfishly, by the time we get through with this, we've doubled the amount of folks that follow us on social media. Sometimes it takes a really big event like this to drive those numbers up, and so my hope is that that is the case. But wanted to walk you through that presentation. The full 40 slides that I present to the public is also on our website, downloadable. And so as I update that, I'll continue to have that slide deck there, because as I talk to groups, I want to be able to tell them, hey, if you think you missed anything on this, go to our website and download it, because everything we've talked about is right there so that you can access it. Oh, one thing I forgot. I skipped over it. We've got a short 10-question customer survey that we put up there in various different places, just to try to start kind of gauging people's reaction to this. Anytime you put something that's a voluntary poll on a website, it's not going to be ultimately scientific. We've kind of worked it so that if in the first 3 questions you identify that you're not an LP&L customer, or a couple other things, it kind of disqualifies your answers to that, because we really only want to focus on our customers. But it's a way for us to easily start kind of gathering data, and then we're going to look at further ways to more scientifically gauge our customers' interests and concerns on this, so we can kind of sync that up and see where we need to do a better job of getting out there and explaining things. So that's my quickest run through, but happy to answer any questions that you have.
My question is, first of all, you did a wonderful job last night, and I believe that the community is now really starting to figure things out and knowing what they are responsible for. One point we did bring up last night was about certain competitors having a physical presence here in Lubbock. Is that information going to be on the fact sheet?
It won't be on the fact sheet, but we can likely list where their storefront is here in Lubbock, and I can certainly draw people's attention to that. As we talked about last night, and I've talked about with these groups, it really goes to kind of what is your preference in terms of how much interaction that you want to have with customer service. And for some folks, being able to physically speak to somebody is going to be important. And so I know that one provider, for example, already has a storefront here. And so I'm going to offer that up to people that are in this market, that anybody that does have a physical presence here, let us know. So we can list that on our website, so that if customers want to go to that physical location and talk to them about their services beforehand, they've got the opportunity to do so. That contact section is important for us, but it's just as important for those reps. And so I want to make sure we list, within our kind of ability to do so, I want to make sure we list everything that they need to educate their future customers, for sure.
Are there any other questions of Matt? Matt, let me compliment you. You have been very receptive to board members' comments and requests, and you've done all of this while handling your legislative duties and this communication. And the only one I had a question on is, it says LPL will not, and it says no involvement with water or whatever, but we will be sending that bill. So I didn't know if, when you said we're not involved with water, if you want to say anything about bills, or that would just confuse people.
I can probably modify that to say that LP&L itself, we continue to just be the electric provider, but you will continue to get your City of Lubbock utilities bill as you have in the past. So I can modify that to make sure.
Because I think because they're still going to get the City of Lubbock utility
Yes,
bill.
absolutely. No,
And
that's a
we're
good
still
point.
the ones doing that, at least for this coming year.
Absolutely.
So it might be good that was, to me, a little bit confusing. We're not involved in it at all, but at least we're sitting the bill, so I'll defer to you.
No, it's a good comment, and like I say, I answer that. That's always the first question I get. If it's not, can we just stick with LP&L? It is, how are we going to pay for these other services? Can I still come to City of Lubbock Utilities physically and pay? And so I'll modify that so it makes it more clear going forward.
Yes, Mr. Rose, I also was thinking about the comment that was made regarding refunding electric deposits on last night, and maybe some clarification of that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the deposits are refunded to the account, not particularly to the customer. That there is a little difference there, because some people may think they're going to get their entire deposit back versus going against their final bill.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah, people have been very, very concerned about, what if I have a deposit on file? Will I get that back? And the other is, and there was a question about this last night, there are folks that purposely overpay, so they've got a little credit on there, and those folks are worried about, if I've got something extra that I paid on my bill, will I get that back? And so probably do need to get with Clint and the customer service folks and refine that answer a little bit, because that is a good point. I mean, you've got 5 services on that bill. And you're likely correct that if you've got debt owed in those other areas, but the deposit itself technically is just for the electric service. Right. So I'll refine that answer and make sure it's more clear so that folks know and they're not caught off guard if it gets, if there's a reason why it gets applied in other areas.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of Mr. Rose? Thank you, Matt, again.
Thank you.
Harvey, are you number 11 on the agenda?
I am number 11 on the agenda. Yes, I am. So we're going to talk about the preliminary plan of finance, and I'll just like to step back and just give a quick refresh, because we passed the board approved, and the city also approved, the city council approved a borrowing for and up to $160 million. And that's comprised of two issuances, or bond issuances that we needed. They're going to be critical that were critical to the move to ERCOT. The first one was an up to $70 million, and that was to facilitate the capital infrastructure upgrades that we needed to make in order to facilitate the transition of the remaining 30% into ERCOT. That's what Luke came up. So the money that went to fund that came from that issuance, and that's what Luke gave an announcement that he's working on. It's accomplished that. We were lucky enough during the timing of that, during a period where interest rates were rocketing up, we happened to catch this nice little dip, and we caught it at the bottom of the dip, and it took off from there. So the second part of that parameters ordinance that was passed by the City Council in August last year covered an up to $90 million, and that was going to be for a Series 23 bond issuance this year, and that's to cover the SPS partial requirements settlement of our partial requirements contract that would have taken us off into another 25 years. That was settled at an amount, $77.5 million. So we have what I'm going to bring before you, or actually I'm going to have Matt Bowles from RBC bring before you the preliminary plan of finance for that final bond issuance to cover that. Pending, we still are working through we're pending our regulatory approval through FERC. That's going to be coming up soon. As soon as that's announced, we can begin that, we can continue down the path that we're going for this issuance. There's a lot of work to do, so we've done a lot of pre-work for that. So that's why you're hearing it before regulatory approval has been given. We like to refer to that as paving the runway as you're coming in for the landing. So it's a lot of work being done. It's a little bit of faith there. So Mr. Matt Bowles is going to give us, from RBC Capital, he's our financial advisor. He's going to walk us through our preliminary plan of finance.
Welcome, Mr. Bowles.
Thank you. And thank you, Harvey, for that introduction and an introduction into the process here. Board members, it's good to see you this afternoon. I don't often get to see you, but I hear a lot about you, and I know the work you've been doing, and I applaud you for it. And I just want to say very quickly, based off what Luke said, and Matt said it again, and I think Harvey just said it as well, and that is this has been a process. I'm aware of that. It's been a long process. And I've enjoyed being part of that process, a small part of that process with the city and the city staff and the council and you all and your staff and previous staffs. There have been a lot of people that have been working on this, and I'm not anyone to declare victory today, but we're getting close, and it's just been a lot of fun, and I appreciate your confidence in me and my firm to be part of that, so thank you. As Harvey said, we've got one financing yet to do here to accomplish this goal, and I want to go through the nuts and bolts of that. There's certain pieces of it that I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about. I encourage you to stop me and ask questions as I go through this. It's not all that complicated, but as we get into the nuances of it, you may want to go a little bit deeper than what I'm going to do. The first thing I always like to start off with is a little commentary about the marketplace because it dictates such a big piece of the outcome. Interest rates are abundantly important to your borrowing and where they sit today, and I know that there's a heightened sensitivity around that right now in this inflationary environment and in an environment where we're looking for things like higher unemployment and things that don't seem natural to us. So this is definitively a bit of a balance, but for you all, I just want to remind you that you borrow through the tax-exempt municipal market, and that market is very robust and very large and very well established, and you all, with your credit ratings, are no stranger to that, so you will be well received, and I want to spike that point as we go through this presentation. The first slide I have on the wall here today is with respect to something you hear about almost every day, and that is what the Fed's going to do with interest rates. And just to remind you, whenever they make that statement, we're really only talking about a very, very short piece of the total yield curve. So they have the ability to influence short-term interest rates, which really doesn't affect interest rates as you go out further on the yield curve where you all will be borrowing, and I'm going to pay attention to that in a little bit. But to answer the question about where we think the Fed's going to go, there's a 90% probability, as I left my computer earlier today, that we're going to have another rate increase of 25 basis points at the May meeting. So here in a couple weeks, we should see that happen. I think the prevailing thought is with all the rate hikes we've had, including that one at that point, and the pressure, really the liquidity pressure that's been imposed by this bank issue, I don't want to label that as a crisis, this bank issue, they believe may be enough to put a soft brake on the economy to get it to where they want it to be. We'll see what happens. I don't make any promises. I have no crystal ball, but I'm actually really impressed with how they've handled this so far. We haven't had a print of GDP that's been negative yet. I think we'll probably see 2 of those at the end of this year, but we could in fact be looking at a softer landing than we once thought. So there's a lot of information on this page. I spoke to the top left, the futures market for Fed funds. GDP is on the right-hand side in the lower corner, kind of all over the map with respect to surveys, but I think I generally spoke to where the average is with respect to GDP and economic growth as we go forward. So here's our rate forecast, and I won't go through this a whole lot because it's taxable. These are U.S. Treasuries and Fed funds. They're all taxable. They don't speak to the municipal market that you all borrow in, but people ask about it frequently, so I like to present it. And then here's some commentary, and I won't read every word of this because I said just almost every part of it in my earlier commentary. But I always focus on our index. It's our Dow Jones. It's called the Municipal Market Data Index. So in the lower left-hand corner on this page, you can see that we've graphed 3 yield curves there. This is a AAA municipal bond yield curve. And the purple line there is the 15-year average. The green line is where we sit today. So we're below average once you get out to year 5 and beyond, and just upside of average inside of 5 years. And that's not unusual given the activity we've seen in the short-term rate market with the Fed's action. I do want to point out something that is abundantly important to what you all are about to do in the top right-hand corner, and that is supply. This is a year-over-year view of total municipal bond supply nationally, and it goes by month. And you can see the yellow bars are what we're registering as data points in 2023. We're woefully behind where we were in 2022 in supplying new product to the marketplace. And just to let you know, in 2022, we were woefully behind what we'd done in 2021. So in a market where we really need about $550 billion of national product a year, we're probably going to do something around $350 billion this year. So there's this natural supply and demand that's working in your favor. You bring an A-rated credit like Lubbock Power Light, part of the city of Lubbock, to market, and it's going to be well viewed and well received because it's got incredible backbone to it, and it's going to be sought after by investors. So that's kept rates in our market down to a point that I think are incredibly desirable. On the right-hand lower right side of that, we just compare MMD 10-year to the 10-year Treasury. Some people like to see that. There's a nice wide gap there. We're trading at about 58% of Treasuries right now, right about where we should be. It's showing some incredible strength. So I feel really good about timing as it stands right now. I just spoke to this. This is just 10, 20, and 30-year MMD if you're interested in that. And then I like to show this. This is a general obligation bond index. You all issue revenue bonds, but this just general market-wise gives you a sense of where we sit historically. This goes back to 1961, so over 60 years of data, all the way back to the Kennedy administration. Rates have been higher almost 89% of the time since 1961. And so for those in the public that might be asking, maybe Matt Rose gets questions about borrowing in this market, that's a good data point to be reflective of the market that you're borrowing in. So that's the market, and now we'll jump right into the plan of finance. There's a lot going on here. I want to underscore one thing that's a general theme that we've always used, and I think consistently with the city, and that's one of conservatism. We always use rates that are higher than market when we run our models. We always use other provisions that are in the bond documents that are more conservative than what will ultimately be struck. So anything we talk about here, I hope to be able to deliver inside of, and we'll certainly get this information back to you once we've gone to market. But we've got a general description on the very first bullet point, and I'll dovetail off what Mr. Hall said earlier, and that is that this was actually taken up in an ordinance in August of 2022 as a two-part plan. So this is the second part of the financing. This part will be dealing with the SPS termination payment with respect to moving your remaining load to ERCOT. That payment is $77.5 million. And then we've got some summary of assumptions below that, the first of which, under the third bullet point, deals with your credit ratings. The utility is rated A1, A plus by Moody's, S&P, and Fitch, respectively. We will be conducting a process with your staff, not only at LP&L, but with the city, to go through these re-ratings again. We've already, as Harvey said, gotten that underway, so we've had the chance to get out in front of this. We'll be conducting those interviews and have already sent some information off to them to get them started. The second bullet point is important because it really has to deal with tax law, and that is how these repayments will be made. These will be level principal payments. I'm going to show you the debt service schedule in a little bit, but that will dictate that the debt service goes down annually. And the reason we have level payments here is that the tax lawyers that are working with the termination payment have made the determination that we need to make level principal payments so that we're in cooperation with the federal tax code. So that's why that is set out that way. And then finally, all of the things that follow thereafter, cost of issuance, underwriter's discount, and interest rates are conservatively estimated and built into the model. The actual parameter calls for a $90 million financing. I don't want anyone to let that scare you. There's a couple things going on that's going to raise the size of this transaction above $77.5 million. And to show you that, I'll go to this next page. This is an actual print of the model that we've run. And remember, these are current market rates of interest plus 30 basis points, so plus 0.30%, paid back over a 20-year period, level principal. In the middle portion of this page, we have the statistical data, the most important statistic of which I believe is true interest cost. And with 30 extra basis points, that's 4.27%. So it would really be 4.97% if you took that, or 3.97% if you take the 30 basis points out. So you're looking at borrowing hopefully sub 4% money. I don't know what will happen between now and the time we sell the bonds. I'll talk about the timing in a little bit, but I feel really good about where the market sits today, and that's what the structure looks like as we stand right now. And then finally, and I do recognize that you may need a magnifying glass to go through this. This is the timetable of events, and I think really spikes the point that there is a lot that goes on in these transactions, and I want to thank your staff and the city staff and all those that are involved in this venture with all they do to help us quarterback this process. But we're here today as a review. We have the ordinance under which to act on your behalf, but we have to get FERC approval. We're awaiting that in 7 or 8 or 10 days, I'm told. And once we get that, the ball will begin to roll so that we can get this transaction in the market sometime in the latter part of May and close prior to the June 15th payment date. So I think as we stand here right now, things are in good order, in good shape. I'm encouraged. I like the market, and I appreciate everything you all have done to get us to this point. And I can answer questions.
Are there any questions of Mr. Bowles?
Can I just ask a question about, there's a call date in 10 years? How often is that used?
So that is a very traditional standard measure in all the transactions we do. There's a 10-year par call, meaning that these bonds can be redeemed in 10 years at face value. And so what that will allow us to do, two things. One, you could prepay them if you had additional cash. I'm not suggesting you will. But the other more important thing from our standpoint is the ability to refinance this debt in the future if rates should be lower. It allows us to call those bonds in and replace them with lower coupon debt. But we don't do that often. We don't do it that often. We don't. But it's there if we need it. And in this rate environment, it's sort of hard to suggest that rates might be lower, but it has happened.
Are there any other questions? Thank you for that very informative presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Item number 11 was for educational purposes and discussion, and then pending the FERC and a few other steps, then it will come back to us. Is that correct? Or we're done, since it's already been approved, it's just the amount of the bonds? Will this come back, Harvey?
That's correct.
Okay. Felix, are you number 12 on our agenda? And as a prelude, if you'll remember, a couple of board meetings ago, we changed the purchasing agreement, that there were certain items that could be handled internally, and that we would come back with the suppliers, and that's what this is about.
That's what
correct,
this is,
Felix?
yes, ma'am. So, of course, this is art to approve RFP 7141-23-ELD. These are supplier agreements for electric utility equipment. We did go through an RFP process for this. We did receive 6 proposals, and then after evaluation by the committee, 5 have been selected for approval.
Questions of Felix?
And then we do have a slide here, just kind of show you.
Oh, great.
To kind of help out why we did this. One of the biggest things is to help with our timelines for getting equipment in for our folks, with our T&D groups. And then we also promise we will be submitting a report every month following after this, if this is approved. This is just an example of what that report will look like for each order that we place under this.
These are the 5 supplier agreements for us, and then on monthly, and all of this is as long as it's in the budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
There are capital projects.
Yeah,
Yes,
there are
ma'am.
capital projects in the budget that have been approved. So this is very helpful for us to know those 5, and then on a monthly basis, will you be bringing that back, or will Joel?
It'll be part of the monthly reports that
part of the monthly
we
report.
submit to you guys already. So it'll be in that. I think that'd be the best spot for it.
Any questions? Is there a motion to accept these 5 supplier agreements?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded to apply these 5. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries unanimously, 9-0.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Felix. Good job.
Thank you.
The next items are on the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that 13, 14, or 15 that anybody wants to withdraw? Otherwise, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent items. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I move.
Second.
Move and second for the consent items. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Unanimous, 9-0. And again, thank everyone. It's always nice to have the full board here. I thank you for your time and interest, and staff for your hard work to prepare for the board meeting. So this meeting is now adjourned.